Mandela the Betrayer, his tertiary education from 1934 to 1949. Mandela commenced his studies at the University of Fort Hare, studying anthropology, politics, native administration and Roman Dutch law in first year. It becomes absolutely clear that Mandela obtained a significant political education at an early stage of his tertiary education. The University of Fort Hare seems to have offered a standard of education that was offered by white universities in South Africa, and he completed that BA degree with the University of South Africa, after which he studied law at the University of Witwatersrand, where he was the only black student. That shows that Mandela received a high quality education that was received by white students at that time and not received by many black people. His political awareness from 1943 to 1949. Mandela was not only aware of all the political events in the 1940s, but he took a civic part in it. Moreover, he was offered leadership opportunities in the ANC. It is clear that the experience he gained during that period was of a high significance in his political career. A lot of South Africans did not have these political leadership opportunities that he got. His political leadership from 1950 to 1954. When he was at the upper echelons of black politics, he without a doubt realized that the National Party meant to politically and economically oppress black people, and that it can do anything to oppress them. Living in a township meant that he also experienced some of the day-to-day difficulties that faced many black people of his time. After reading Marxism, Leninism, he should have realized the advantages and disadvantages of both socialism and communism. Mandela got a job as an attorney at Terre Blanche and British, and then moved to the liberal run Helman and Michel, passing qualification exams to become fully fledged attorney. After that, he and Ogar Tambo opened the Mandela and Tambo law firm, operating in downtown Johannesburg, which was the only African-run law firm in the country. It was popular with aggrieved black people. Disliked by the authorities, the firm was forced to relocate to a remote location after their office permit was removed under Group Areas Act. As a result, their clientele dwindled. As a lawyer of aristocratic heritage, Mandela was part of Johannesburg's elite black middle class and accorded much respect from the black community. To him, South Africa was not all doom and gloom. However, it is significant to consider the fact that by socio-economic status, Mandela was higher than the majority of black people. That class division or gap might have influenced him on quite a number of aspects. Treason Trial and Congress of the People from 1955 to 1961. The forced removals of black people from the Sophia town suburb showed Mandela and his colleagues that the National Party wanted nothing good for a black South African. That is why the strategic planning of Mandela changed from non-violent action to violent action to end apartheid or against apartheid. The fierce and brutal repression of public mass demonstrations and consistent target of movements leaders stressed that More importantly, the liberation movements also knew that apartheid will end. Hence, the Freedom Charter was drafted and adopted in 1956. Moreover, the movements had the idea of a democracy because the charter was based on the proposals submitted by the people. It is easy to say in retrospect. However, if in 1956 the liberation movements had an idea of a democratic post-apartheid South Africa, they should have taken into account the fact that having a democracy where the electorate has no civic education is futile. His military role from 1961 to 1962. During this period, Mandela showed good leadership qualities, being able to be flexible enough to move from a stance of non-violence to violent action against apartheid, convincing party leaders about the need to form controversies to execute the violent actions in a manner that is organized. Moreover, he changed the structure of the ANC to clandestine cell structure. Being an SACP member, he was thoroughly exposed to both communism and socialism. Mandela was an initiator, and in order to initiate, you need to study the situation and correctly judge it. More importantly, it is clear that his education allowed him to access a lot of important study material and develop critical thinking skills. Many black people of his time did not enjoy benefits of such education, so he was one of the best of his time and a true intelligentsia. His imprisonment from 1962 to 1964. In 1962, Mandela and Cecil Williams were captured near Howick. Jailed in Johannesburg, Mandela was charged with, among other things, leaving the country without permission. On 11 July 1963, Lily's farm was raided by police, arresting those they found there and uncovering paperwork documenting MK's activities, some of which mentioned Mandela. In October 1963, the Rivonia trial began with Mandela and his comrades charged with 4 counts of sabotage and conspiracy to violently overthrow the government. The anti-apartheid movements might have realized how committed the National Party government was in oppressing other races. In 1964, Mandela and his co-accused were transferred to Robben Island prison. He studied at night for his correspondence course from the University of London and initiated the University of Robben Island, whereby prisoners lectured on their areas of expertise. He debated socio-political topics. He was visited by Helen Suzman, Dennis Haley, and Jimmy Kruger. In 1969, Gordon Bruce planned an escape for Mandela, but he abandoned the plan after it was infiltrated by an agent of the South African Bureau of State Security, who hoped to see Mandela shot during the escape. International calls for Mandela to be released continued, but the National Party government relied on the US and the UK, which regarded the ANC as a terrorist group. Mandela once again showed that he could initiate things as he had always done. He planned. The failure to escape should have reminded him how vicious the National Party government was towards black people. In April 1982, Mandela was moved to Pollsmoor prison together with other senior ANC leaders. Conditions at Poolsmoor were good. Mandela was allowed many letters and did a lot of reading. On the other hand, the government permitted Indians and coloureds to vote, but black Africans were prohibited. Mandela and the United Democratic Front saw this as a divide and rule technique. During the early 1980s, violence spread across South Africa and many predicted a civil war. Simultaneously, the economy was not growing because multinational banks had stopped investing. Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister of the UK, asked P.W. Botha to release Mandela. Even though Botha considered Mandela a Marxist, he promised to release Mandela if he, I quote, unconditionally rejected violence as a political weapon, unquote. But Mandela refused the offer, citing that the ANC must be unbanned. In June, an international delegation was sent to negotiate a settlement, but the government of National Party refused to cooperate and declared a state of emergency. The anti-apartheid resistance fought back, with the ANC committing 231 attacks in 1986 and 235 attacks in 1987. The government ended up deploying the army and provided support to vigilante groups and Zulu nationalist movement, Inkatha, which was in violent struggle against the ANC. Minister of Justice Kobi Kutsiye managed to have 11 secret meetings with Mandela, and in 1988 an agreement was reached to release political prisoners and legislation of the ANC, with conditions to not insist on majority rule and renounce violence forever and break ties with SACP. Mandela rejected the conditions, stressing that the ANC will end its attacks only when the government renounces violence. Globally, Mandela was a heroic figure. At this stage, Mandela could realize that the Union government had considered negotiations as one of the solutions moving forward. The world was in solidarity with the anti-apartheid struggle. Even Margaret Thatcher, who at the beginning considered Mandela a terrorist, had changed. In December 1988, Mandela was transferred to Victor Verster prison. That is where he completed his LLB degree. In 1989, P.W. Botha suffered a stroke and was succeeded by F.W. de Klerk as the leader of National Party. And he invited Mandela over tea in July. 6 weeks later, P.W. Botha was succeeded by F.W. de Klerk as the president of South Africa. After the fall of Berlin Wall in 1989, de Klerk called his cabinet to debate legalizing the ANC and releasing Mandela. In February 1990, Mandela was unconditionally released and anti-apartheid movements were unbanned. On 11 February 1990, Mandela left Victor Verster prison and gave a speech at Cape Town City Hall, declaring that he is prepared for peace and reconciliation with white people, and made it clear that the ANC armed struggle was not over and would continue as a, I quote, purely defensive action against violence of apartheid, unquote, and mentioned that his main focus was to bring peace to the black majority and give them universal suffrage.